Welcome to today's episode of Cascading Leadership. I am your friendly neighborhood talent strategy nerd, Dr. Jim. Today, we have a great episode focused in the area of sales effectiveness. Some of the things that you will take away from this conversation, we're going to learn why continuous learning and continuous improvement is a critical success factor. We're also going to learn why mindset is important in the sales role and in the sales function. And we're also going to learn, among other things, where most sales reps get it wrong when it comes to approaching their sales process, methodology, and engagement. There's going to be some heavy lifting that is going to happen in this episode. And to help us with that lift, and or actually lead the lift, we have Ralph Beltran joining us. Welcome to the show, Ralph.
Thank you, Jim, for having me on the show. And hello, everybody. Just to get started, tell you a little story about myself and who I am. That way you could get to know a little bit more about me. I'm a founder of Become Your Best Consulting, sales trainer, coach, and doing sales, teaching sales. This is what I love to do. This is where the passion lies. I've been in sales, so just to tell the story here, I've been in sales for a total of 32 plus years. It all started off with me starting in retail sales as a sales rep selling shoes and clothing. And ever since then, I've always knew that working with people, just talking to them, understanding them, helping them find solutions, all of that was something that I was meant to do. And I think a lot of this stems from my family, my parents. My dad was a sales rep in the petroleum company and been in sales. So as a little kid, I would go with him at his work and be in there watching him, seeing what he's doing and the sales that he did. So I just opened up my eyes to sales and thought, wow, he's a hardworking man. And then also I see my mom in the sales industry. She did retail, clothing sales. And so seeing them both in sales, at a young age, I seen what they did. I seen the hard work they put in, but also I heard all of the success stories at the dinner table about new customers they met, a new engagement, how they met new friends and made new connections and relationships out of just being in sales. So I think as a little kid, it drawn me towards sales. As I got old and I turned old enough to work, my first thing was I need to get into sales. I'm going to follow my parents' path. So I jumped into sales, started off in retail. As I learned in retail, all the basic fundamentals of relationship building, working with customers, I found that I could do even more. I could help out even more people. I could probably get into business aspect of this. So I got more into real estate. And real estate, once again, it was dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, learning what their goals and their dreams are as a family, sitting down with them, talking to them, asking open-ended questions, finding out how important it is to buy a home. And what I did in real estate is I was very successful in that industry, and I placed over 485 families in their very first home. So this was a great feeling inside. This is in the heart, feeling, wow, I got this family, the little boy, the daughter, into a home and the smiles that they had on their faces. So that was my very first feel of success in sales, I would say, where I felt as though I accomplished something and that all my skills and everything that I learned is all coming to fruition and everything was coming together. Within that industry, once again, I started thinking, okay, how about if I was able to transfer my sales skills into business, working with companies and organizations and enterprise and corporate. So I got into telecommunications, more of selling voice over IP, selling SaaS communication, and all of the internet, fiber optics. And being in business to business was a little bit different than working with B2C, working with customers. It was more of finding out, okay, what's the company's goal now? I found out about the people's goal, but what's the company's goal? How do I do this? So that required me to do a little bit more research on company and businesses and the industry as far as telecommunications and how businesses are succeeding, what they're failing at. So it was a lot more research that I had to do and a lot more education that I had to intake as far as, okay, something new, something different. Now let me learn and get to know this. Got into telecommunications, was in that for about 5 years, been very successful in the telecommunications, top producer, award winning, and very successful in that industry. In there, I grew to be a coach and mentor. What happened was it just happened organically. The new reps that would get hired on, seen my success and would come to me and say, Ralph, how are you doing this? How are you so successful in reaching customers? How are you so successful in closing sales? And then they would just come to me naturally. And I felt as though, wow, someone's coming to me for help. I've never done this before. Being that go-to person, being that person somebody could go to and ask questions and concerns and trying to start helping others, I started to feel as though, okay, I could do this. I have already 20 years in sales already. I've been doing this for a very long time. I felt as though now I could help others. Now let me see what I could do to get people, other sales reps, other professionals on the same page. How could I impact their lives? So I started mentoring on a little one-on-one basis with them, teaching a little bit of sales strategies, having them ride along with me, shadow me, go with me on calls, listen to a couple of my calls. And then I started seeing impact in their lives. I started seeing their numbers increase and their achievements. And it just started feeling good. I started to feel as though this was my calling. So what happened was my next job role, I wanted to be either a trainer or a coach. So I went into a company that was looking for a sales coach. And that was a position I took. And during that time, I took on 5 teams and I started training from, it could be from 35 to 50 sales reps. Here, this was pure training and coaching on sales strategies, prospecting, cold calling, customer relationship building, outreach. How do you get customers? How do you communicate with customers? Everything that I used in the past, I was going to use in my coaching strategies and processes and systems to teach them what I learned, mainly to do one thing, to help them not go through that pain, challenge, and struggle that I did with the rejections, the no's, the bad part, the part that everybody's fearful of sales and thinks, okay, sales is hard. So I wanted to say, okay, let me put together something where I could show them that it is hard. Sales is a hard job, but if you put together a process and a system, you could make it a lot easier. And when I started coaching one-on-one, teaching, that passion came through the screen, came through my training, and I did that for 5 years. After that, I decided that I wanted to grow even further. I wanted to teach even more people. How could I teach more than 50 people? So I decided to start up my own company, Become Your Best Consulting, to reach the world, to open up my training, my consulting, my coaching, mentoring to the world. Any sales professional that just is struggling out there, sales professionals that have self-doubt, they're just not believing in themselves, their skill level, what they know, what they've learned, and just struggling in sales. So that's where I'm at today.
For those of you listening or watching this on YouTube when this is out, it's pretty cool that you were able to condense like 32 years worth of stuff into a handful of minutes. So that's cool. Thanks for giving us that rundown. I think one thing that's important to point out is that you're somebody that's had sales success across 3 different sectors: retail, real estate, and then B2C across a number of different things. And then you transitioned into coaching. So that's an important call out. Why did you pick sales as a career in the first place? And I know that you mentioned your parents played a big influence in it. Aside from, I guess, the earning potential of the job, what were the biggest things that were important to you in terms of your decision to go into a sales career?
The story I'll tell is it's a little different, but as a child, I seen myself in a vision presenting in front of a stage in front of thousands of people. So when I seen that vision of myself, I always knew that this is something I was going to be meant to do, to teach others. I didn't know what I was going to be teaching. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but I knew that I was in front of an audience speaking, talking, and sharing. And that right there was a vision and a dream that put in my mind where I said, okay, that's where I'm meant to be. I didn't know at this point what I was going to be teaching, what industry, was it people, was it businesses, but I knew that I was meant to be there, teaching, mentoring, or coaching in one aspect. After that, being in sales, I knew that I had more of a flexibility to be able to use my skills. And not only that, but be able to manage my own business. In sales, you're able to say, okay, this is how I'm going to be successful. You're able to draw out your own game plan, your own strategy. You're able to put together your own process and systems on what and how you could become successful. It's scalable. You could make it what you want it to be, and you could basically change it if it's not working. Where in other industries, I found it's a little bit harder to do that. You have a lot more control in sales to manage your own schedule, one, and second, to manage your own process and system, where that's unique itself, where if something doesn't work, you're able to take it out and implement something new that can work for you. So it was the flexibility, your own schedule, and your own processes and system.
It's interesting that you cite flexibility. And the part that I'm intrigued about when you mention that is that you'll oftentimes go into a lot of sales organizations and they have set processes and set scripts and set all sorts of stuff in terms of how you're supposed to do things. I agree that stuff is necessary. You need a framework. I'm interested to get your take is you talk about flexibility, and a lot of sales organizations structure their operation to be a sort of cookie cutter model in terms of how you do outreach, in terms of your talk tracks, in terms of all this sort of stuff. So how do you bridge the gap between an organization that is highly structured and prescriptive versus it sounds like you're somebody that thrives in a flexibility, figure it out sort of mode. So how do you make those two things work together?
So a majority of the jobs that I held were outside sales. So it would probably be a little bit different in an inside sales role. So most of mine were outside sales. So the flexibility came for I was controlling my schedule. Usually I would come in 8 o'clock, and it's usually just to follow up on emails, print out some collateral, and then go out in the field and then do my prospecting. So I would go out there usually 10 to 12, and then I would go to lunch, go back out from usually from 1 to 3, go back out prospect, and then come back to the office, do a little bit of follow-up, set my schedule. So on outside sales is a little bit different. I have done some inside sales where yes, it's a little bit more managed. There is a little bit more of a script you got to follow. So being with that script and that process, the inside sales role, what I would do is use what I was given, and I would dissect it, review it, practice it, rehearse it, go through the script, the call script, go through the process and system. I would use what I could use and adapt and implement my new strategies and processes that I knew would work. So I would implement a mixture of the company's system and my own system. Usually what happens is as long as you're doing the role, as long as you're doing the calls, as long as you're doing the prospecting activity, it didn't really matter to the company on how I was getting it, as long as I was achieving the numbers, the calls, the prospecting, as long as I was doing my email outreach and all of that. So it was using what was there and then implementing what I knew worked and including it into their strategy, their system, and using it. And I've never had a problem doing that, as long as, once again, the numbers are attained.
There's an important discussion to be had there. Glad that you eased that out with, which is a lot of people, and I'm generalizing, a lot of people at the desk level confuse activity with achievement. And what you just said is, hey, I'm paraphrasing, do what's expected of you. But as long as you're delivering the outcome, nobody's going to really screw with you in terms of the actual activity. And the other part that you said, do the activity, but you should have a ridiculous focus on, hey, is this activity moving the needle? How can I improve this? What else can I add to this that's going to get to the outcome, which is a deal? And that's the part, those are two related things that I don't know if a lot of people actually think about. And in fact, I would argue in highly prescriptive environments, where the focus is the activity, it actually teaches people not to think. You just push buttons and see what happens. And if you've experienced that in the world of work in all the different places that you've engaged with, what are some of the things that somebody at the desk level can and should be doing or thinking about so they don't fall into that trap of running their desk on autopilot?
A lot of it is just reviewing your numbers. You always have to keep track of what's working and what's not working. And I call that self-reflection time. Sitting back and looking at your calls and looking at how many people you connected with, how many people you scheduled appointments with. And then when you're emailing, how many people did you email? How many people responded? If you're looking at your numbers and you're self-reflecting on what you did on a daily basis, and a lot of you're not achieving anything out of it. You're not, like you said, it's not moving the needle in the right direction. This is where you got to figure something out. You got to self-reflect and say, okay, what is it that's not working? If you're just picking up that phone and making 100 dials and you're using that call script and you're not, it's getting you very little positive output number wise, you need to change something. I use a call script as a guidance, as a roadmap to keep me on track and in the right direction. But I never use it verbatim. I never use it as this is what I have to do, because if it's not working, it's just not working. You could do it for 6 months and a year, and if you're still not seeing results, then something needs to change. I always say that if somebody put together that call script, if somebody put together this system and this way of doing it, and if it's not working, maybe something needs to change. And if multiple people are not achieving, then maybe something needs to change overall with the script itself. And this is where, as a team, you would have to talk and say, you know what, can we look at this call script and maybe change something up here? Can we look at this strategy that we're using and maybe change it? As a team, you could always have a voice when something's not working. So I would always keep track of my own numbers and then talk to my coworkers. Is this working for you? Is this call script even, is it getting you responses? Are you even getting emails back? And so self-reflection with myself, but with the team. So that way we could collaborate together and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not working. If it is not working for me, myself, that's where I would implement a little bit of my own flavor into that call script. Use some of it because, once again, it's there. Use part of it, but also implement my own little me to make it my voice and to make it authentic to me. That's the main thing when you're reading a call script or you got a certain a strategy that they want you to follow. You got to make sure that it sounds right coming out of you. So it's if hearing yourself. If you're making calls, let's record yourself. Go back and listen to yourself and see how you sound. How are you coming across to the other people on the other side? Does it sound authentic? Does it sound rushed? Are you stumbling? What's going on with your calls? And then if it doesn't sound right, get that call script, rehearse it, practice it, make it your own. You make yourself comfortable with hearing your own voice, but also hearing your own words that you're speaking. And if something in that script doesn't sound right, change it to a word that you can use and it sounds more authentic to you to use that word.
A lot of times when people hear the word script, they think, oh, it's somebody that's just saying some monotone things and there isn't deviation. And one of the things that I always say is think of it in terms of a framework. What is the framework that you're going to build to have a conversation with somebody? And you mentioned 3 elements from a best practices perspective that people should be doing. You should be executing what you have. You should be evaluating what is the outcome that's coming from that execution. You should tweak certain elements that aren't working to test if this leads to different outcomes. But most importantly, you should own it from an end-to-end perspective and make it yours. You should be continuously working across all 4 of those things so they become yours. Just because it's handed to you doesn't mean that that's what you have to deliver. And I think that the one area where I might have a little bit of an argument with you is that I'm not going to friggin' ask anybody. If what I'm doing isn't working, I'm going to see, okay, is it this line? Let me try this other line. That's not moving the needle. We'll keep that. Is it this line? And I'll go through the entire thing. And if I change every line and it's not working, I'm going to come up with something else. And don't wait to ask for permission. You should, and I think you'd agree. So it's not a big argument that you and I are having. I think you'd agree that, hey, if you find out that it's not whatever you've been given isn't working, build something that does work for you and constantly test it and report back.
Yeah, I definitely go and change it my own. I think a lot of what asking the team is just clarification for my own self. Is it just me experiencing this? And to see if the team experienced the same thing. But usually, yeah, it's usually on my own thing. I make sure that I'm comfortable with it. And then if anybody, I think a lot of the reasons why you ask, if I change it up and it works for me and I start seeing results, I'd be happy to give the others that script, to have them use it, to see, because I was always in that coaching mentoring mentality where they would always come to me. So I would say, okay, are you experiencing this? And I find the people that are struggling with it. And then I know who I could help if I need to pass on that new call script to you and say, okay, here, try this out. This is working. I change it up a little bit, give it a try, practice it, rehearse it, and see if it works for you. So it was more of the clarification, but definitely it's all me. I'm gonna draft it. I'm gonna put it together. I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna make sure it works. And then I'd be happy to share it.
You've been more of an outside sales guy than an inside sales guy, but regardless of what that looks like, what are some of the things that you've seen from a scripting perspective in terms of its elements that works best for you when it comes to generating conversations?
The first thing I would say is to have open-ended questions involved. And this is what this is going to do, is it's going to help you draw out more information from the prospect, from the customer. So it's going to have them dip a little deeper into what their thoughts are, what their process is, what they're feeling deep inside. What happens is a lot of times sales reps will go out there and start talking about the features and the functions. This is who I am, but also this is what I'm trying to do for you. This is the reason why I'm reaching out. We have done this in the past for this company. you don't really know yet if you could even help this prospect or customer at this point. You're just trying to reach them and contact them. So the best way to do this is to ask an open-ended question. Instead of saying, this is how I've helped other companies, are you experiencing these type of difficulties in your business? Is this something that you're experiencing in your industry? What happens is it starts to pique their interest and start to them to think about whether or not they are. Is that something that they're even experiencing? If it is, they're going to want to communicate with you. If it's not, at least you know that it's nothing of their interest. What you're trying to even present, it's not even a matter to them. It's not a concern to them at this point. So you're narrowing it down to your ICP, your ideal prospect, right? The customer that you want to work with. So by asking open-ended questions, it's going to draw out that true pain point, that challenge, that struggle, and that's what you're looking for. Finding out whether or not this is even a person that you could help. A lot of times by asking a question first instead of blurting something out has gotten me more responses on that end, whether it be on a phone call, and in person's even better. You're able to ask questions to understand them better. You're able to sit down with somebody, and instead of just telling about what your company does, who you are, at this point, they don't really care. It doesn't really matter at this point. First, they want to find out, okay, who is this person first off? And I believe that asking those open-ended questions will allow them to open up themselves a little more, so you'll uncover who they are. But then it also gives you opportunity to share a little bit about who you are by engaging back and forth. Now, after that, you are able to move from that point because you're able to ask these questions. You're able to gather your notes, you're knowing what's going on, and you know that's the customer that you could help with your product or service. So always ask open-ended questions. After that, I would say to use your active listening skills. Once you ask these questions, wait 8 to 10 seconds. Let them think about what you asked, the question that you asked, because what happens is in our human mind, we need time to think about what did they ask, how am I going to say it, and how do I respond? You give them a little bit of time to think about what they're going to say and give your true answer. It's going to be an authentic, true response to your question, not just a rushed out, this is what it is. The mistake that I see made a lot is when you ask an open-ended question or even a question in general, that silence that's there for those few seconds, as a sales professional, you want to naturally ask another question. You don't want that silence there because it feels uncomfortable on both ends. So you think, let me just ask another question or let me rephrase it. They're thinking in their mind what they want to say. They just need some time to dissect it, figure it out, and then be able to respond back in the right manner. I would say those are the two things.
Actually, I counted three. One is focus on asking questions versus making statements. Two is active listening. So we're on the same page. But three is leverage the power of silence, which is it's like hell on earth for salespeople to just shut the hell up. The number one thing that we as sales professionals need to do is get people to talk to us. And if you're just telling people how great you are or what your widget is and all the cool stuff it does, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your company. They care about themselves. And any interaction with anybody else is revolving around the question of what can this person that I'm interacting with do for me to help advance my interests and my business. If you're not engaging at that level, and again, demonstrating your knowledge of the problem versus your knowledge of your solution, because nobody cares about your solution right now. A guy on a podcast talking about the power of silence. I think all of that context that you laid out, all of the different things that you should be doing from a scripting perspective, but especially the ownership part and the testing part is really great advice. Now, the other thing that I'm curious about is when you look at the role of continuous learning as it relates to sales success. You can be great in terms of scripting. You could have the greatest product in the world. You can be prepared and all of this sort of stuff. That can all be great, but you can still screw stuff up and not be good. So where does that investment in self-learning and continuous improvement, and where does mindset all fit into that recipe for sales excellence?
Anytime that I coach and mentor somebody, I always talk about always be learning. No matter where you're at in life as far as your sales career, you're a manager, sales manager, if you're account executive, BDR, SDR, any type of role that you're in, to always be learning. As we know, times change, things change, people change. So that's the same way you got to think about your skill set. You always need to change it up. You always got to be having something new that you're learning and always have something new to offer. So that can only happen by you continuing to learn, continuing to sharpening your sales skills, but continuing to learn and develop your mindset. Always knowing that no matter what and what level you're at, that you should always have a growth mindset. And that would be that you could continue to learn, even if you're already a sales champion, even if you're at the top of your leaderboard, there's always something new for you to learn, and there's always new levels that you could get at. There's always director positions, sales, training, and coaching that you could look forward to the future. So to never stop to just learning and say, okay, I'm comfortable here with where I'm at, because that's when you start thinking, okay, I can't learn anything new. Everything out, there's nothing for me to learn. I'm good. I'm already at the top. I don't need it. No, you got to always continue to learn. So even though I'm 30 plus years, I'm still reading books. I'm still watching videos. I'm still listening to podcasts, because I believe that you could always still learn something new. And then whatever I learn, I'm able to provide that or give that out to somebody else. And if I'm not learning, I can't give out anything new. So if there's something, and then if not only that, if there's something out there that's new that's happening in the sales world, and I'm stuck back with only learning 30 years, but not continue to learn, I may not know that new system. I may not even know that new strategy. So I have to be on top of my game. And I think everybody else should be the same way, to know that your competitor is doing the same thing. They may be learning. The company is growing, the company is doing new things. So the more that you can learn, the more knowledge, experience, and the more that you could hone in on your skill set and level, the more comfortable you're going to be at sales, the more confident you're going to be.
So oftentimes when people hear the idea mentioned about learning, and I think you and I might be oddballs in the space where we're talking about, hey, I'm constantly looking at podcasts and reading books and doing all this sort of stuff. People have this impression that sales professionals are just kind of like mindless drones or grunts or whatever. And that's simply not the case, because your best reps just devour information, constantly looking at what is the next thing that I can learn or the next thing that I can uncover that's going to give me an edge. When you talk about learning and you drill it down to what a desk level person might want to think about, it doesn't necessarily mean classes, because that might not be how you actually learn. So what are some things that a rep that is in an industry selling some product, what are some things that they should be paying attention to? Those are learning opportunities.
So number one, I would say let's talk prospecting, cold calling. That's huge in most businesses. So what I always tell, is always talk about and preach is to practice and repetition your calls. I do this on your own. I tell them, this sounds funny. Grab the phone, look at yourself in the mirror, and practice your calls over and over. The more that you see yourself and hear yourself, you're able to adapt, you're able to change it, and you're able to change your tonality. That's key when you're making calls. So I tell them, smile once in a while. When you're talking through your calls and you're looking in the mirror, smile here and there. It comes through over the phone. Even though you may not think it, it comes through over the phone or even over Zoom or a call. So always be able to do that. What happens is they think, okay, call after call, rejection after rejection. They don't understand that it takes time to learn the script. And the only way to really get it down and to hone in on that script and make it your own is through practice and repetition. So that's key. Get comfortable being on the phone. The best way to do it is to make some calls. I always tell them, you know what, if you're not comfortable making customer calls, make calls to your friends or family and just talk to them about something. And do the same process, because you're watching yourself making the call, and record yourself and hear yourself on how you're communicating, because overall, that's where you want to be. That same comfort level where you're talking to your friend or family member over the phone or Zoom call is authentic, the tonality. So if you could mirror that to making cold calls, that same style, that same communication pattern, that same tonality, it'll make the calls a lot easier for you.
I know that there are people going to be listening to this that are going to chime in, and they're going to be like, that Ralph guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because cold calling is dead. The phone is dead. Why would you even bother with that? How would you respond to that?
Cold calling is definitely not dead. Let's talk about the invention of the phone. So when the invention of the phone happened here, you have two people, the person creating the phone, and his main goal was to reach out and contact and reach another person. He built the phone to reach somebody, communicate with them, ask them a question, and to bring them in. That's what the phone was made for. You could try many different methods of prospecting and communicating, which is email, text. There's so much technology nowadays. And these are excellent forms of communication to be able to reach out, build rapport, build relationships. But when it comes down to making a sale, you still need to pick up that phone and make that call. Majority of the percentages of business is still conducted over the phone. This is Google stats out there that could be looked. So anybody listening, take a look at Google stats, look at the percentage of the closings, what's the preferred method, and it's telephone. It's being talked to on a one-on-one basis. All of the other forms of communications are great for building rapport, building relationships, and all of that. But when it comes down to the phone, it's going to be, if you think about it, very little sales. You're going to send an email out to a customer and you're going to tell them, are you ready to move forward? And they're going to give you a sign it on a dotted line on an email. It's not going to happen. You can't send a text out and they're going to say, okay, here's my signature on my text. Let's move forward. It's either going to involve a personal call one-on-one to get that yes, and it's going to be the easiest way to do it. You could send out 100 emails and you could pick up a phone and make the call. And if you make the call at the right time, you could get them on that call within the day, 2 days. It's an easier, faster way. There is no faster way to reach somebody. You could go through hundreds of emails. You could go through hundreds of text messages. Picking up the phone and contacting somebody has been the easiest and fastest way to reach somebody, and it always will be.
When this comes out and people are going to watch this on YouTube, they're going to see me sit here with a dumb grin on my face as you were saying that, because it's so true. I just don't understand. And for me, I look at it as I'm going to use any way possible to get in front of a customer. So everything that you have at your arsenal is a tool. So if you're trying to build a house, are you going to only try to build a house using a screwdriver? No, you'd be stupid. So you have like entire construction companies with all sorts of tools. So why wouldn't you use them all to try to build a house? And it's the same thing with sales. You have all sorts of ways to get in front of people. There is no excuse for you not to use every tool available to try to make a connection. And that's the point. The other thing that I want to dig in a little bit on is, hey, just because we say cold call, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is like completely out of the blue. There's a certain amount of it that could be, but you can actually shift the scale into your favor. So what are some of the things that you could do ahead of that cold call that gives you a higher likelihood or a better chance of connecting and advancing the relationship forward?
I would say what we just talked about is using the tools. That's what I think all of the tools are great for. The outreach, direct messages via LinkedIn, building a relationship before you even make the call. So that's interacting and engaging with the people that you want to do business with. This would be going to their profile, seeing what they're doing, and start engaging with them, starting to get to know who they are, what they're doing, what they're about on a human level, getting to know them. When they start seeing you communicate back and forth, engaging and talking to them, and they see you and say, oh, now I see who this person is. Oh, this person, Ralph, he's been around lately. So when you make this call, the name's just not going to be out of the blue. They're already seeing you. And once you start engaging, they're going to start looking at what you're doing. Now, let me go see who this guy Ralph is. What is he doing on his end? Oh, wait a minute here. He's helping people just like our company. He's already doing something positive in this world. So once again, building that little bit of visual, that little bit of know, like, and trust factor before you even call them breaks the ice, and it makes it so much easier. So when you pick up that phone or try to reach out via text, email, and all of that, they already know who you are and what you're about.
You just said something that is a big thing on my radar is before you can advance any relationship in sales, you have to get people to know and trust you. So if you're a complete ghost in the areas that this person hangs out, wherever that might be, and they don't know who you are, they're not going to give you a time of day, which doesn't mean it's insurmountable. You can still advance it. Then you can advance it by asking questions instead of talking about who you are or what you do or any of that sort of stuff. When you look at outreach and prospecting and critical skills that are necessary for a complex sale, and I want a roadmap what a complex sale looks like, how many people are involved in that process, and typically what a deal size looks like, and then wind that back into what should your outreach and prospecting look like if you want to land or be successful in a complex selling environment.
And when you're dealing with more complex sales, this could be more of a corporate enterprise, multi-site company where they have, it could be global, international, where you're dealing with a lot more business other than just the standard franchise, couple businesses around the area. When you're dealing with this here, you want to first start off by doing research on the company, finding out exactly how many locations they have, what they're doing as far as the industry. And a lot of this you could find on LinkedIn. You look at their profile, look at their data, their statistics on there. It tells you how many employees are in there, has graphs on sales, human resources. So you could find out a lot by doing this research here. And then go to their website, take a look at their website, look at their locations, what they're doing, their achievements, their accomplishments. So that way you have some talking points on what their accomplishments are, what they're doing, how many awards they won, they've been awarded this award, anything like that that could help you in your conversations to help you build that relationship and that rapport. And then saying, okay, not only is this person new to me or new to our coming out and reaching out to me, he knows a lot about us. He knows a lot about what we do, what we are. That right there alone is just a lot easier than you just trying to start something new and just going in there and making a call and saying, hi, this is who I am and this is what we do. So learn about your prospect, learn about your customers, dig deep in it, do research on it. Some of these larger complex sales, there's going to be multiple people involved. It could be how the head of sales, it could be the CFO, CEO, and then also there could be board of directors, which I dealt with plenty of times. Sometimes you will have to sit in front of a board of director that could be 12 to 20 people. This could be a little bit harder now because you have a lot more eyes on you, a lot more decision makers there, and you're having to speak to a group of people instead of 1, 2, 5 people. So you must be prepared to talk in front of people, more of a public speaking thing. So if you're not comfortable talking in front of a group, know that in these complex sales, these larger sales, when it has to do with $500,000, $1 million sales, you're going to be dealing with a lot more decision makers. Smaller sales, you may have 1 or 2 decision maker. When you're dealing with complex, larger sales, international, global, something of that aspect, you're going to be dealing with the board of directors. You're going to be dealing with the whole entire head of sales, all the people involved. So you got to prepare yourself to be able to present and have all of your, be prepared. First off, be prepared to be able to present to as many people as you can. Be comfortable with your talking points, be comfortable with your conversation, have a roadmap and a guidance on exactly how you're going to get through that conversation and know what you're going in there for.
It's interesting that you referenced the board of the directors presentation component. That's pretty down funnel. So I want to wind it back a little bit. Before it gets to that stage, what should a rep be doing with that entire board of directors before it gets down funnel? And I call it the buying committee. So whether you're talking about a small deal or a big deal, there's always some sort of committee that's involved in some respect with the deal. Because the reality of it is nowadays, if you misappropriate or misspend even 5K of company money, that can get you fired. So people are going to be very hesitant to go rogue and do things on their own. There's always other people that are involved. So before it gets to that down funnel stage where you're presenting to the group, what are the things that you should be doing across that board of directors or the buying committee so they know you?
Be the same process that I use over here is going into their profiles, going to their LinkedIn, finding out who they are. So you want to find out as much as you can about everybody involved in the decision-making process. So everybody that's going to have their hands in there, everyone that's going to be involved, that's going to have a say in a relationship inside of that whole building the relationship, but in the sale overall. So getting to know who they are, look at their profile, understand who they are, understand what they're about, and understand their role. What part do they play in this? What part do they play in the sales? How are they going to be involved? And then how much do you have to be able to provide feedback in their expertise? Let's say if they're a CEO, okay, what are they in charge of the company? Okay, so this is some of the talking points that I have to have them engage and involved because I'm talking on their level. So understand their role, understand what part they play in the decision-making process there. And then that way you have talking points to them. You always want to have everybody involved. Don't exclude 1 or 2 people. You want to talk to them all. You want to get them all involved. And that's by asking them all questions and getting everybody involved. And that's only by understanding what they do, what part of the decision-making are they, how are they going to be involved? Are they going to be involved at all times? So it's doing research, always doing research, preparing yourself to be able to answer questions if it comes from that particular person and why they're asking. So you got to know what their title is, their role, and what they do for the company.
This kind of ties back into sort of a mindset question or component of the selling process. So when you're dealing with the buying committee, it's even more important that you're oriented, at least in my opinion, to what's the problem that you solve. That is the question that there's sort of two questions that we should always be asking ourselves as sales professionals. What's the problem that we solve? And who is the CEO that owns this problem? And here's why I'm going down this road. So when you're dealing with the buying committee, my question to you is, shouldn't you be thinking in terms of those two questions? What's the right way of thinking in engaging all of those different personas? Because there's one buyer, but all these other people have interests too. So what's the mindset that a rep needs to be in to effectively navigate all those conversations?
If you have an ability to be able to communicate with everybody that's there, right? And you're able to ask questions on, a lot of times I want to know from you, but you could also, don't ever be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand what some part in that sale is going to be, or part of the decision making, talk to them, find out what part they have in it. What do you do for the company? What are you looking for? So if you could ask the same open-ended questions to draw out what they're looking for, what would impact their department, how it would impact them, your solution would impact them. You want to do research, but you could always ask. I always say, don't ever be afraid to ask on how something would affect a different department or how it could impact somebody else within the company. And it's all about asking the questions. The one thing that I always tell people is, don't be afraid to ask, because everybody loves to talk, especially about themselves. So if you have a CEO and you want to find out some information, ask a question. Try to find out how it would impact that department. And if there's, let's say, another person involved, ask them. If we had similar question, if this was to happen, how would this impact your department? And that way you could get this input. If you're able to get their input on how it would impact them, you could use their words when you're rephrasing back how the solution is going to help them. Now, this will help out your department based off what you told me. That way you're covering everybody and everybody's challenges, not just one. The more that you could get as far as input, the more you could get, more notes that you could get to be able to rephrase back when it's ready to sell, the stronger your sale presentation is going to be.
That's a great rundown, Ralph. Thanks for sharing that. So throughout this conversation, I think we've covered a lot of ground. We've obviously talked about different things like mindset and continuous learning, and how you even get tactical in terms of how you execute some of the core components of sales. With all that being said, we have a roadmap of what good looks like in theory. Where do most reps go wrong when it comes to navigating a complex sales process or just sales in general? What are the things that you most often see?
I would say a few of the things are fixed mindset. And that would be that whatever I learned, the skills that I learned at my past job, the skills that I already have within me are good enough for this job. All jobs are different. If you're going to think that you're going to come in and use the same skills, the same skill set, and everything you learned plenty of years ago, 10 years ago from trainings, that's going to work today, that's not the case. So it'd be a fixed mindset thinking, everything that I was already taught, everything that I'm learned is going to work here. Most of the times, that's not the case. You're going to have to learn something new. You're going to have to learn new strategies. You're going to have to learn new skill to be able to do your new job. So the one thing that I see from reps and where they go wrong, it's holding the pride that if something's going wrong and if they're not attaining or achieving their goal, not asking for help. That's a huge thing. As a sales coach, I would have people knowing that they're struggling, because I'm seeing the leaderboard, I'm seeing all the numbers, I have all the data in my eyes, and I'm looking at everything, and I'm like, this person's struggling here. Why are they not showing up? Why are they continuously missing these trainings when they could learn so much? It was what I came down to, and based off another conversation I had with my VP of sales, was that it came down to the pride of not wanting to ask for help, not wanting to reach out, not being like, I'm here as a sales rep. I should know this already. I should already have all this down. No, you'd not. Don't be afraid to ask. If you need help, ask for help. It's the pride that holds them back. Then I would say that fixed mindset and the pride of asking for help, those two things will hinder a salesperson. Once you're able to lower down your pride and understand that you could learn from somebody else, doesn't matter if they're younger, doesn't matter if they're less experienced. If they're in a role that they're to help out others, go to them, ask for help. And then have an open mind to take on coaching, to take on mentoring, and to learn. Have a growth mindset to understand that you can learn something new. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. I had a rep that was 65 years old. So I coached from ages of 25 to 65, and he would miss. And I told him, I held a one-on-one. What's going on? He's like, Ralph, I've been doing this for so long. I don't think I could learn something new. I said, no, you can learn something new. These are things that are working with our customers here today. And the reason some of my successes are this, let me do a one-on-one with you. We talked to him, and that was his main thing, is he believed his pride held him back to say, I can't. And his fixed mindset, I can't learn nothing new. I'm already 65. I'm close to retirement. Once he started, he went from mid-tier to top producer, and then he retired. And his one testimonial that he did for me was that no matter what, he thought that he could never learn something new, and that I proved him wrong by first understanding where he was struggling at, and second, just being human with him, telling him I'm there to help him. I'm not here to be your manager. I'm not here to do anything but to help you with what your challenges and struggles are. And once he was able to let go of that pride, let go of that defense, and have a growth mindset that he could learn something new, even though he's been doing this for probably 40, 50 years, way longer than I have, and I was younger, he was still able to learn.
When you're talking about growth mindset and openness to learn and asking for help, there's a component you reference it as you got to let go of your pride, and that's important. I think there's another component of it too, is that I always talk about you got to be the CEO of your own desk. And what that actually means, it can mean any number of things, but what it means to me is that you got to look at your desk as if it's your business. And if this was your name above the door and you're doing a bunch of stuff, would you continue to do the same stuff and get the same results and just keep doing that harder? No, you wouldn't. You have to look at it from a business mindset and say what's working, what's not, and be constantly looking at what are you doing and how is it moving the needle. And I was smiling when you referenced the example of the rep that had been doing this forever, and he basically said, look, I've been around for a while and there isn't much that you can teach me. That's something that a lot of sales leaders will run into. Yes. And I think the point that stood out in your explanation is that you said, hey, look, I'm not in competition with you. My job here is to help you get to where you need to be. So if there's something that I notice that you could be doing differently, I have a responsibility to bring that to your attention so that you can tweak it or change it or do something different so that it moves the needle for you. That's an important component of this whole process. But the other thing that you mentioned in that whole conversation about where do sales reps get it wrong, you mentioned something along the lines of you have to be able to demonstrate that you know something about the company, the industry, the person in all of your outreach that you're doing. And I don't want to let that go, because I think a lot of reps just figure, hey, we have the ability to just push massive amounts of content or massive amounts of messaging out there. Why not go for the volume play? So my question to you is, how would you answer that question? Why not go for this volume? I have all of this automation in front of me. I can just blast out a bunch of emails and see what happens. What's the implication or risk of doing that when it comes to selling? Why not go that route?
If you want to be the same as everybody else, that's what everybody else is doing. The automation, the emails that come in. One of the things being as a founder that kind of just irks me is that when I get an email and my name's Ralph and it says, hi, John. So the way that you need to stand apart from everybody else is to do something different, to do something that everybody else is not doing. So if you follow what everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same outcome as everybody else. And that, if you could go online and you look at this, it's not always success. There's a lot of no's, there's a lot of rejection, people getting put on blast on exactly like that. I got an email, wasn't even directed to me. This email was so scripted. This email, nowadays, this is happening so often that consumers, buyers are getting used to this and they're understanding what's going on. So you're not going to fool anybody. The more personalization, the more customized that you could reach out to people, the more authentic that you could be is what's going to set you apart from everybody else.
So you and I run in similar circles, obviously, because we're in the same function and we're in various levels of leadership roles. And got this big smile on my face when you said personalization, because I'm a big hyper personalization guy. And you'll know this reference when I say it. One of the things that Samantha McKenna always talks about is show me that you know me, or show me you know me. And that is absolutely critical in a world where everybody is just blasting emails out. You got to do something that no one else is doing. So when the world goes big, you go micro. When everybody is sending emails, you use the phone or you use video messages. Newsflash, you know where this person works. You could probably send them something in the mail that is personalized with a handwritten note where you take a piece of paper and you write stuff on it. Hey, I'd like to meet with you.
Yes.
Gee, I wonder how many people are doing that. And newsflash, for those that are listening on the show, I'm not some 800-year-old person that's saying, hey, handwritten note. I'm like a Generation Xer. I'm not over the hill or anything like that. I'm making a joke about it. I was dead ass serious when I said, I'm going to use whatever means necessary that's ethical to get in front of a customer and build a relationship and start a conversation. So I think this is a good exchange in terms of all the things that you could be doing other than hitting a button. I want to bring this together. What's the risk that you expose yourself to if you're just going to hit a button and send a bunch of automation out? What does it mean for your career if you think that's the way to go?
Number one, you could ruin your reputation as being salesy and just not being authentic, not being truly who you are. And we talked about how everybody wants to work with somebody they know and trust. And that's definitely not going to build a know and trust. The personalization, the customization of reaching out to them, picking up the phone and talking to them, leaving a voice message, sending a letter to them, which I have done, so definitely works, is that shows that you really care, that you're really trying to build a relationship and a rapport with them, not just trying to, it's not just a transaction thing. I'm not just trying to get a sale out of you, but I'm trying to build a relationship with you, where everything else that we talked about is just going to show that you're just trying to get a sale out of it. You're just trying to put another number on your board, another sale, and then it's just going to be one and done. That's old. That's that way of thinking. The transformational is what's in now. We know now they want to figure out and work with people that are going to transform their business, people that are going to transform their lives, help them out, make their life easier at work, and help their business run smoother and easier.
Excellently put. Great conversation, Ralph. I'm glad that we were able to dive deep in a lot of different areas. And I'm pretty sure you and I can talk about this stuff for hours on end in terms of that. And who knows, that might be another thing that's coming down the pipe. So with all of that, all of the stuff that we covered, what are the 2 or 3 most important things that people need to walk away from coming out of this conversation?
So if you're in sales, you're a sales professional. Number one thing is prepare your mind. Sales is not an easy job. Sales is definitely one of the hardest jobs there is in the world. So prepare your mindset to know that it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You're going to be rejected. You're going to hear the no's. So this is where you need to spend the time, the energy. And if this is what you want, to put in the time and the energy to be able to develop your skills, develop your knowledge within sales, get better at what you do, start practicing, rehearsing, pick up books, watch videos, listen to audio, become the best version of you. Always be prepared when you're going to talk to customers, research them, look at what they do, start to understand who you're going to be talking to, who you're going to be outreaching, and how you're going to build this relationship with them. Find some key points that you could use if you do reach them, stuff that they've accomplished, stuff that they've done. And when you do contact them, the one thing to remember, ask open-ended questions to learn more about who they are. And when you ask these questions, stay silent. The dead silence it's terrifying. I know we want to ask more as sales professionals, but give them time to think of an answer. Give them time to respond and give you their true, authentic answer.
Awesome stuff, Ralph. Thanks for sharing that. How do people find you?
So you could find me on LinkedIn at Ralph Beltran, also under at Sales Mentor. Most of the social platforms, you could also find me at BYB Sales Mentor. On LinkedIn itself, if you hashtag Sales Mentor Ralph, you can find all of my posts, content that I put out there, written, audio, video, also podcasts. I'm under Sales Closer Society. If you want to take a look at that, you can find me there. But once again, I'm here, always there to answer any questions. And once again, I hope this impacted all of you all, and I hope you picked up a few things that you could implement and change your life.
So Ralph, thanks for joining us and sharing with us all of your insight. I think there's a tremendous amount of value and takeaways that people are going to be able to put into play right away. A great discussion. For those of you listening, you can find us on all your major podcast platforms. We are most active on LinkedIn. You can also find us on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Thanks for joining us on Cascading Leadership.